Lagos, the nation's commercial capital. This is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Ayotunde Balogun. Tonight, get to work. That's the directive coming from President Muhammadu Buhari to the 7-man Petroleum Industry Act Steering Committee. The President gives them 12 months to implement the PIA. Kidnapped college students in Zamfara plead for help over their rescue in a video released by their abductors today. We will be focusing tonight on the decision of the Central Bank of Nigeria, the CBN, to freeze accounts of 6 fintech companies. We'll be finding out the implications. And ousted Afghanistan leader Ashraf Ghani flees to the United Arab Emirates. Authorities welcome him on humanitarian grounds. Plus, we have business, sports, news from Abuja, and later international news from our London studio.
On business news tonight, Edo State government introduces new tax reforms to reduce burden on citizens.
And on sports news tonight, Team Nigeria becomes the first country ever to win gold in the 4x400 meters mixed relays at the Under-20 World Athletics Championships holding in Nairobi, Kenya.
And from Abuja, House Committee on Finance directs Federal Inland Revenue Service to show proof of payment of tax of MTN for 2007 and 2010 to 2017.
Nigeria may be seeing a more vibrant petroleum sector within the next 1 year, as the President today inaugurated a steering committee to implement the new Petroleum Industry Act. Headed by the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Mr. Timipri Silva, the committee is to ensure transparency and drive more investment into the sector. President Buhari gave the approval today while speaking on the PIB Act during a meeting with the leadership of the National Assembly led by the President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan. Our correspondent, Gloria Umezoke, reports.
President Muhammadu Buhari has been speaking on the petroleum industry bill he has sent it to on Monday, August 16. In so many ways, he is confident that this new act will eliminate all the miseries that has enshrouded the industry for so many years and pave way for greater investments. As a matter of fact, he's asked host communities to look into that bill, examine it and understand all the benefits that accrue to them. It is for this reason the President expressly approved a steering committee that would implement the PIA in 12 months.
In the first 10 years, Nigeria has lost an estimated $50 billion worth of investments due to uncertainty created by the non-passage of the PIB. I have approved an implementation framework commencing immediately to ensure the industry envisaged in the new law begins to take shape. The implementation process to be headed by the Honorable Minister of State, Petroleum Resources, is hereby tasked with the completion of the implementation of the Act within 12 months.
After the meeting, which held before that of the Federal Executive Council, the President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, who was physically in attendance alongside the leadership of the National Assembly, without mincing words, cautioned against any manipulation of the monies that accrue to the host communities. He is also asking that Nigerians go beyond any grievances and focus more on the merits of the approval, which translates to $500 million.
You know, from zero to over $500 million, I think it's a big jump. And with time, such issues could be further addressed. But I want to also caution that it's not the $500 million that is small, but how we are able to prudently and transparently deploy these $500 million in the host communities. This time around, there should be no excuses for anybody to tamper with this money.
According to a statement released at the State House, members of that steering committee includes the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Petroleum Resources, Group Managing Director, NNPC, Executive Chairman, FIRS, representative of the Ministry of Justice, Finance, Budget and National Planning, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Natural Resources, who serve as head of the Coordinating Secretariat and the Implementation Group. The President has also assured that the Act will see an end to gas flaring and more investment in renewable energy in the sector. From the Presidential Villa, Gloria Umezuki, Channels Television News.
After that event, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Mr. Timipre Silva, was on our program Politics Today, where he gave further details on how the implementation of the Petroleum Industry Act will be carried out. The minister insists the communities and their representatives would be in full control of how the money is spent.
This is not going to any government structure. It is a structure that will be set up between the communities and the company. The company that is operating in the host community, they will set up a trust fund, and this trust will be developing and directly spending this money. It has nothing to do with government. That's why I said this is a fund that will now be targeted at the host communities. Host communities will make nominations into the trust. The companies will make nominations into the trust, and it will now target. And of course, the communities will come up with what they need. And it is now the company will now administer those contracts under their laws, under their structure. And of course, before now, you did not have the abandonment and decommissioning fund. Now, the PIA provides for an abandonment and decommissioning fund, which means that what happened in Ogoni cannot repeat itself again. If you are leaving, there is already a fund that you have contributed to that will be available to ensure that all the environmental issues that you have brought about in that area will be tackled from that fund.
And now to security. 5 men have been killed at Tafi Gana village in Miango district in Bassa local government area of Plateau State. This occurred in spite of the dusk to dawn curfew imposed by the Plateau State government in 3 local government areas, including Bassa, where the attack took place. According to the Secretary General of Irigwe Development Association, Danjuma Auta Dixon, the suspected armed herders attacked the village on Tuesday night, killing the 5 people. In the meantime, the Plateau State Governor, Simon Lalong, has relaxed the 24-hour curfew he earlier imposed on Jos North local government on Sunday, asking the security forces to go tough on troublemakers in the state. Under the new arrangements, the curfew will be observed from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. daily, beginning from Thursday, August the 19th. This will also apply to Bassa and Jos South local government areas until further notice. Abducted students of the College of Agriculture and Animal Sciences, Bakura, are calling for help from captivity. The abductees sent a 30-second video clip making an appeal to the state governor, Bello Matawalle, and the state government to rescue them from their abductors. Reacting to the development, the state government has vowed to do everything possible to secure the release of the abducted students and staff of the college. The Commissioner for Information, Ibrahim Dozara, confirmed to Channels Television that there had been a joint team of security agencies and the government officials in the search operation, all in a bid to rescue the victims. Peace may soon return to the eastern zone of Sokoto State as leaders across political and religious divide have resolved to work together to restore peace there. Following the growing security concern in the eastern part of Sokoto, the government convened a high-level stakeholders meeting seeking to discuss and prefer solutions to the situation. After the meeting, the state governor, Amina Tambuwal, told journalists that leaders across the state have decided to work together towards providing adequate security across the state, regardless of their political or religious leanings.
Leaders of the state, irrespective of political differences, have come together in unison to discuss this very challenging issue and find lasting solution to it. That in itself is very significant. It has shown how all of us are concerned and worried about what is happening in the state, particularly what is happening in the eastern zone of the state. And we have all collectively resolved to work together as a family to find solution to these problems. And we have constituted a committee under the leadership of His Eminence the Sultan that will now collate all of the views and provide solutions to the problem of insecurity in Sokoto State.
We're in Benue State, where it appears the state government is having a big problem at hand with the growing numbers of IDPs there. The biggest challenge is providing food, shelter and healthcare for the IDPs. But the government and Doctors Without Borders seem to be making effort to change the current condition of the internally displaced persons. Over 1.5 million IDPs are currently displaced in the state.
Hundreds of internally displaced persons who fled from renewed herdsmen attacks in rural farming communities in Benue State now taking refuge at the Otesa IDP camp with just mosquito nets as shelter. Since the camp opened in April 2021, they have suffered large-scale malaria and other diseases as a result of poor living conditions. Hence, the intervention of the Médecins Sans Frontières in the area of water supply, drilling of borehole, and ongoing work at other facilities.
Nobody will know what is happening in Otesa here.
One of the IDPs speak on how difficult life has become since fleeing from the attacks to the camp.
The health condition is not proper because people are not well fed. The facilities in going to toilet and whatever is not fine. There was a time people were almost sick. Everybody was sick. They intervened in vaccination and treatment from Doctors Without Borders. Everything has improved.
Aged women, nursing mothers and children wear forlorn faces with distress on how to feed, provide for their well-being in a camp where everyone looks out for themselves. Officials of the international NGO Doctors Without Borders, who speak on the level of intervention, call for inclusive efforts to bridge the gap in the humanitarian crisis, which is now breeding other forms of sexual and gender-based violence, with a record of 210 cases in just 1 year across the camps.
One of the major gaps that we found out was those which are related to water and sanitation, as well as those which are related to health. So there was a huge gap in terms of provision of basic health. So our interventions were then focused on water provision. So we have just started providing water through the tracking, and we have also started to construct latrines and showers as a way of reducing those morbidities which are as a result of poor water and conditions.
We majorly provide medical care to the survivors and psychosocial, mental health and psychosocial support. Now the medical care we provide is to one, prevent unwanted pregnancy and prevent sexually transmitted infections, including HIV, and to treat any form of injuries that are sustained as a result of rape.
The governor also believes the surge in IDP population calls for inclusive and coordinated response.
The challenge is we keep having this IDP. So with all the efforts and with the financial challenges, funding challenges that we have, it has become extremely difficult to say that you satisfy the needs of these people. Well, every month, the local government, the state, will try to provide food. I think by next week we should be providing some level of relief and food materials to this camp.
Although the Doctors Without Borders have done a lot in the area of water and sanitation, as well as health services and shelter for the IDP, the burden of food supplies monthly by the Benue State government can rarely solve the food crisis for over 1.5 million people living in IDP camps across the state.
From Benue, we head to Kaduna, where the state government has directed all secondary schools to reopen only for junior secondary school 3 students. This is to enable them sit for the National Examination Council certificate examinations, which is scheduled to begin on August the 23rd through till September the 6th this year. Now, the directive was issued today by the State Commissioner for Education, Shehu Mohammed, who also asked the students not to come to school in their uniforms during the duration of the examinations. The Kaduna State government had, on the advisory of the security agencies, suspended resumption of schools indefinitely owing to ongoing onslaught against bandits by the military. In part 2, after the break, jailed Nigerian recounts harrowing experience in Italian prison, says over 300 Nigerians are currently detained by Italian authorities. Do join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the News at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. President Muhammadu Buhari inaugurates 7-man Petroleum Industry Act Steering Committee, gives them 12 months to implement the PIA. Kidnapped college students in Zamfara State cry out for help in a video released by their abductors today. Central Bank of Nigeria, the CBN, to freeze accounts of 6 fintech companies over allegations of dubious forex dealings. And United Arab Emirates shields ousted Afghanistan leader Ashraf Ghani. The Amotekun Corps in Oyo State has denied involvement in the alleged killing of a 15-year-old boy in the Mokola area of Ibadan. Some young people had taken to the streets in the Oyo State capital, protesting against the boy's killing and accused an operative of the Southwest Security outfit of being complicit. The aggrieved youth blocked some roads in the Mokola area where the incident occurred. The teenager, identified as a printer apprentice, was sent to buy some food when he was killed. Some of the commuters plying the Total Garden Secretariat Road, Government House Road and Parliament Road had to find alternative routes. Reacting to the accusation on behalf of the Amotekun Corps, the Director General of the security outfit in Oyo State, Colonel Adeyanju Olayinka, maintained the group's innocence. The chairperson of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Abike Dabiri-Erewa, says Nigerians incarcerated in Italy should only be punished for the actual crimes they have been found guilty of and not trumped-up charges. She was speaking at a meeting with a former Commissioner for Arts, Culture, Tourism and Diaspora Affairs in Edo State, Mr. Osaze Osenwege-Ero, who said he was also incarcerated in Italy for 18 months in 2019 without proof. Our correspondent, Kayla Megwa, tells us more.
Osaze Osenwege-Ero is a former Commissioner for Arts, Culture, Tourism and Diaspora Affairs in Edo State. According to him, in 2019 he was arrested at the airport while boarding a connecting flight from Amsterdam to Germany to meet with the Nigerian ambassador to Germany at the time, Yusuf Tuga, on the Benin Artifact Restitution campaign. He was charged with being a member of what the Italian prosecutors called the Nigerian Mafia.
I went through the trial, 18 months, complete full trial, and I was released because the charges were not proven, the allegations were not proven. If I do not create this awareness, these innocent Nigerians who do not have a voice will be languishing in prison for crime they did not commit.
Article 416 bis of the Italian Criminal Code outlines what a mafia-type organization is and the punishments for perpetrators of these kinds of crimes. The complainant claims that Nigerians are racially profiled by the Italian authorities and, using this article, imprisoned with no actual evidence of any crime committed. He wants NIDCOM to come to the aid of over 300 Nigerians allegedly imprisoned in Italy who may be paying for crimes they did not commit.
If there are so many Nigerians in Italian prisons languishing for years for an offense that they told you, are you interacted with them that they did not commit, we can't just watch and see that happen.
Parts of the accusations brought by the complainant include that he was not supported by the Nigerian government, even though he was arrested while on official duty. His lawyer gets emotional at the meeting and had to be addressed on some uncomplimentary comments he made.
You are proud of what you are, be proud of your country. And don't you dare come to jump down on your country. Is that the problem? It's going to solve the problem. I will solve it for your letter. It's British. You can't be British. Don't jump down on your.
A protest on this matter is planned to hold at the Italian embassies in Nigeria and England in the coming weeks. Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
The Central Bank of Nigeria, the CBN, has reportedly secured an order to freeze bank accounts of 6 online investment platforms for 6 months. The CBN is alleging that they are engaged in illegal foreign exchange transactions, including accessing and procuring foreign exchange through their banks from the Nigerian foreign exchange market by several bureau de change and international money transfer operators. The fintech startups are also alleged to have transferred cash deposits of more than $10,000 to various accounts overseas, contrary to provisions of extant laws and regulations, and traded in foreign securities and cryptocurrencies in contravention to the central bank's guidelines. The Channels Television has reached out to the regulator for reaction on the matter, but is yet to get a response. Meanwhile, 2 of the affected fintech companies, Bamboo and RiseVest, have reacted to the freeze order. According to them, their team and government are looking into the matter. They are also assuring everyone that investments and operations are safe. Now, joining us to discuss this issue is Tosin Olubenga, a block exchange engineer and chief executive, Affidex.org. Welcome to the News at 10.
Thank you.
All right, so let's look at it from what's going on at the moment. Nigeria's financial system allows fintech startups to operate in the country without registering. And what is the possibility of their involvement now in the CBN's allegation of forex market infraction?
Well, the CBN has oversight on all financial activities within the country. So and I'm certain the CBN would not take that decision outrightly if there is no infringement, or if they've not done something outside the regulatory framework that they operate with. So that is what it is.
So what does this mean actually for fintech's accounts? I mean, the freezing, what does it do?
Okay, so first of all, the CBN, all right, made mention of the fact that some of these fintech startups decided to involve in cryptocurrency against a guideline that was released in 2015. Meanwhile, many banks also did that prior to earlier this year. The CBN did not freeze the account of those banks, the traditional banks, but gave them warning, and they stopped that. So I expected that the CBN was supposed to have actually issued a warning ahead to these fintech companies to let them know that you are doing some things you are not supposed to be doing, rather than going to the court and fixing their account for 180 days. So it means potential investors in those fintech startups might not be able to have access to their funds, and you know what it means to such fintech startups.
So what impact is this going to have on other fintech startups, regarding this?
Of course, generally, this kind of news is not good for our economy as it is. The foreign direct investment into Nigeria has reduced by 50% in the second quarter of 2021. So if investors who are interested in investing in 1 or 2 fintech startups hear this kind of news, it's going to definitely put them back, and it is not good for us. And we have young people, the macroeconomics indices within the country shows that there is high rate of unemployment, and these young ones are innovating their way using financial technology and using, I'm a software developer, so I know what we do within this industry. So this kind of news is not actually good for the industry and for Nigeria at large.
So what regulation or policies can the CBN put in place to,
well, I think
because other fintechs
I think the CBN should, the CBN and policymakers should understand that we are in a digital revolution that is being driven by the young population of this country. So if you are doing policies that is going to affect these young people, it is expected that you bring them to the table. Let us discuss. People who are intelligent, who operate within that framework. Every nation in the world regulates whatever happens within their borders, but they do that to benefit their people and not the other way around. So that's it.
We'll definitely be keeping tabs on that one. Tosin Olugbenga, Block Exchange engineer and chief executive, Affidex.org. We thank you for your thoughts on the news at 10.
Thank you so much.
Our Federal Executive Council has approved 21.1 billion naira for projects in the aviation and education ministries, as well as for some federal agencies. Addressing State House correspondents after the weekly Federal Executive Council meeting, the Minister of Aviation, Senator Hadi Sirika, says the Council approved 4 memoranda for his ministry, which amounted to 16.69 billion naira. Meanwhile, the Council also approved the contract for the construction of facilities, including hostels, for the Federal University of Petroleum Resources in Delta State.
So today at Council, 4 memoranda was taken from Civil Aviation. One of it is approval for the construction of Wachakal Airport. Wachakal Airport is in Yobe State. And the contract is for the sum of 6,284,065,056 naira even. This will generally answer the question as to the growth and development of civil aviation, and also to show our preparedness for emergencies and military operation and other security agencies.
The Ministry of Education presented a request to Council for the approval, which we got, to now proceed to award contracts at the Federal University Efrun Warri, Delta State, for 2.7 billion to provide hostels, administrative blocks, and an e-library platform.
When the news at 10 returns, House Committee on Finance directs Federal Inland Revenue Service to show proof of payment of tax of MTN in order to resolve a 451 billion naira debt. Do join us again.
It's 6 o'clock in the morning.
Welcome back. Let's now hand you over to the nation's capital of Abuja, where Makwe Ogun is standing by. Makwe, over to you.
Hello, Ayotunde. Well, the National Assembly, even though in recess, has our first story as the House of Representatives Committee on Finance is asking the Federal Inland Revenue Service, as the FIRS, to submit receipts of the tax payments made by MTN to the agency for the year 2007 and 2010 to 2017. The request comes as the committee observed during its interaction with the agency today that MTN is indebted to the tune of 451 billion naira. The chairman of the FIRS, Mr. Mohammed Nami, is also disclosing that the agency plans to introduce road tax. Our correspondent Linda Kigbe reports.
The House of Representatives Committee on Finance continues to meet with government agencies to discuss the 2022 to 2024 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework, MTEF, and the Fiscal Strategy Paper, FSP. One of the federal government's critical revenue-generating agencies, the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, is before the committee, and talks shift to the ability of the agency to meet its revenue targets.
We already have a department called International Tax Department that is handling those cases. Twitter and others are already registering with us, so we are aware, and that is why from a revenue projection of about 5 trillion last year, we are raising the revenue projection to about 10 trillion in the year 2022. So what we've decided to do is to propose the introduction of road taxes to the federal government through our Special Tax Operations Department, in such a manner that informal sector player that will own at least probably 50 trucks and will be plying this road for free, at any given point in time he comes across the toll gate, or probably somewhere that we are going to use electronic device to collect this without necessarily erecting toll gate, he pays taxes.
The committee takes the FIRS on the indebtedness of telecom company MTN to the federal government and what the agency is doing to ensure that the company pays up.
It's not just indebtedness, it's avoidance of payments intentionally by MTN. You reviewed and you came up with an outstanding of 451,985,426.86 million naira. Your agency confirmed as MTN is owing Nigeria.
They have been paying by installment some of the liabilities that are yet to be fully settled by them, which is in the region of about 96 billion.
A company in Nigeria that has been declaring profits in trillions will now be holding Nigeria's money to the tune of close to 500 billion. And then you are here telling us that they are going to pay till the end of the year. What is the meaning of that? Why can't they pay?
We finally realized that MTN remitted some of the withholding taxes, but they could not produce evidence.
The House Committee on Finance directs the FIRS to submit the receipts of the payments made by MTN. Linda Akibi, Channels Television News.
And away from probity, the chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, and that of the Northern Governors Forum, Atiku Bagudu, have joined well-meaning Nigerians who continue to visit the country's former military president, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, at his home in Minna, Niger State, as he celebrates his 80th birthday. Speaking on behalf of the governors, Dr. Fayemi said the commitment and patriotism displayed by the former military president have remained a reference point to the younger generation.
To reach the age of 80 can only be attributed to the grace of Almighty Allah. So we thank God for him, and everyone who reaches such an age deserves accolades and congratulations. How would one describe him? Well, he was a committed soldier, a professional one who fought for the unity of this country and went on to serve as the military president in our country at a time that Nigeria was going through a very difficult time. And he did a lot on a whole range of issues and served the country with commitment and patriotism and contributed his quota.
Well, the Nigerian government is hoping to register the birth of at least 25 million children in the country by the end of the year 2025. That's according to the National Population Commission, which says at least 80% of children in the country are yet to be registered. This comes as the United Nations High Commissioner on Refugees commences accelerated birth registration exercise in internally displaced persons camps in Abuja with a target of registering 1,000 people in 2 days. Our correspondent Emperor Simon reports.
This internally displaced persons camp located in Durumi Area 1 is one of the 18 IDP camps in the Federal Capital Territory, and it provides accommodation for over 2,700 people, most of whom are victims of conflict in northeast Nigeria. Majority of the children and adults here were not registered at birth, a situation which has prompted the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees in collaboration with the National Population Commission to organize an accelerated birth registration exercise in the camp.
Last year, we set up an action plan with the government to end statelessness, the National Action Plan. That was after a 2019 high-level meeting where this was agreed on. So we're taking it step by step.
According to the United Nations International Children Emergency Fund, UNICEF, more than 50% of the births of children under 5 in Nigeria remain unregistered, accounting for 11% of unregistered children in West Africa.
In most part of Nigeria,
a child do not have name at birth. We actually supposed to capture that child as that child is being born, but they will have to go in some part of Nigeria. It's 8 days, some is 40 days, and you find out most of these parents, they don't come back.
The government has a wave of scaled-up measures to register at least 80% of unregistered children by 2025, in line with the UNHCR target to end statelessness by 2024.
By year 2025, we are going to get 25 million children registered, and that will be just 80% of the unregistered children.
The beneficiaries of the free birth registration exercise are happy about their new status as registered citizens with birth certificates. According to data obtained through Rapid SMS, a web-based platform used by the National Population Commission in tracking birth registration in Nigeria, 6.5 million and 6.2 million under 5 births were registered in 2019 and 2020. This leaves more than 1 million new births unregistered and at the risk of being stateless if no action is taken. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
And that's all from the nation's capital. It's over now to Teniola Shobowale for business news.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Malpe. Welcome to Business News. More residents in Edo State will be contributing to the internally generated revenue by paying taxes. The Edo State Governor, Godwin Obaseki, who disclosed this as part of a new tax regime, also confirmed that there will be no increase in the existing tax rates.
The other reform we are looking at is collaborating a lot closer with the local governments so that we can consolidate both the taxes that are levies that the local governments are supposed to collect and those states are supposed to collect. So that way we can reduce the burden on our citizens. There's no reason why have a situation where different agencies and different tiers of government are running around and trying to get citizens to pay tax, whereas they can consolidate and have one tax assessment served on citizens, which will now break down what is due to the local government and what is due to the states.
Clients of Noor Takaful, an insurance company, are bound to reap benefits for a third consecutive year for an accident-free period of their premium payments. Since its inception in 2017, Noor Takaful has paid a total of 1 billion naira in claims.
We are conservative.
Insurance in Nigeria is on the verge of employing legal, unconventional schemes to ensure the security of finances and resources of the insured. To this effect, Noor Takaful is centered on providing value-added solutions on insurance services that guarantee payments on all contributions.
Takaful Insurance is part of the growth trajectory of Islamic finance that was influenced by the introduction of Islamic banks and Islamic capital market entities. Its introduction is a testimony to the responsiveness of NICOM, the insurance regulator of Nigeria.
The chairman shares insights on the Noor Takaful surplus distribution.
The principle is that in the Takaful model, the policy holders, right, when they pay the premium belongs to them, not the insurance company. The insurance company just manages the funds on behalf of the policyholders, for which the insurance company gets management fees.
A total amount of surplus to be distributed to participants is 36,300,000 naira, with NG Petroleum receiving the highest check, followed by Kano Agric Supply, Jais Bank, Sterling Bank, Madibo Adama University of Technology Yola, and JAM.
We took their policy, and I will say in the last 2 years we have enjoyed it to the extent that most of our claims have been paid.
Takafu is an Arabic word connoting shared responsibility or mutual sharing. For many, it is expected that this scheme will be employed by conventional insurance companies to enable citizens maximize profit in the local economy, as schemes like this are not secluded to Muslims.
The equities market slipped marginally in today's trade by 0.01%. Laddie Williams tells us more.
At the sound of the closing gong, the all-share index, which was in the green yesterday, ended Wednesday's session negative, down 0.01%. Looking at the activity chart, we see that volume and deals traded today were much higher compared to the previous day's close, while value is down at 2.67 billion naira. The trio of Transcorp, Champs and Zenith Bank were the most traded for the day by volume. Let's look at the top performers today. Farmadeco is back on the top, gaining his counter today up about 10% to close at 1 naira 43 kobo, followed closely by BOC Gases and Honey Flour. Over to the sectors now. Banking is in the green, up 0.08%. Same with consumer goods, oil and gas, also in the green. Well, the market is quite unpredictable, and so we can only watch and see how events play out for the rest of the week. That's it from me on Stock Market Report today. I'm Laddie Williams. Back to you.
Thanks a lot, Laddie. Now let's see the closing numbers for the global markets. And that's business news tonight. It's back to Ayo for the rest of the news at 10.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Many thanks, Teniola. Still ahead on the news at 10, embattled Afghanistan leader Ashraf Ghani flees to the United Arab Emirates. Authorities there welcome him on humanitarian grounds. Please stay with us. Afghanistan's President Ashraf Ghani has taken refuge in the United Arab Emirates. The UAE's foreign ministry says the country had welcomed Mr. Ghani and his family on humanitarian grounds. Let's head over to our London studios where Simon Pusey has more on the Afghan conflict and other international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The Taliban's top political leaders have arrived back in Afghanistan from Qatar, where many were in exile for more than 10 years. Video posted on Twitter by a spokesperson showed people exiting a plane and cheering around a man believed to be Abdul Ghani Barada, the political chief of the Taliban, with the video's graphics saying he'd arrived in Afghanistan from Qatar. A Taliban commander also met the former Afghan president, Hamid Karzai, for talks amid efforts by the Taliban to set up a government. Meanwhile, the city of Jalalabad in eastern Afghanistan has been the site of demonstrations, where at least 2 people have been killed and 12 wounded after shots were fired at a protest against the removal of the Afghan flag. The city was captured by the Taliban early on Sunday morning without fighting. At least 1,941 people are now known to have died in Haiti in Saturday's powerful earthquake, a rise of more than 500 on the previous figure. Nearly 10,000 people have been injured and many are still missing after the 7.2 magnitude earthquake. Rescue work has been hampered by heavy rains brought this week by Tropical Storm Grace to the Caribbean nation. The UN says about 500,000 children now have limited or no access to shelter, safe water and food. The World Health Organization says it has identified counterfeit versions of India's primary COVID vaccine, Covishield. The doses were seized by authorities in India and Africa between July and August. The WHO warned that fake vaccines pose a serious risk to global public health, calling for their removal. Covishield is the Indian-made version of AstraZeneca's jab and is the most widely used vaccine in India, with more than 486 million doses administered so far. Lithuania has accused 12 Belarusian officers in riot gear of illegally entering its territory to push a group of migrants over the border. More than 4,100 mostly Iraqi migrants have entered Lithuania from neighbouring Belarus so far this year. The rise in illegal crossings started in June after the EU imposed sanctions on longtime Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko. Lithuania and its allies have accused Belarus of flying in migrants from the Middle East to send across the border in retaliation for those sanctions. Authorities say the huge Californian wildfire has now burned more than 626,000 acres since it began 6 weeks ago. Known as the Dixie Fire, it now ranks as the second largest Californian wildfire on record. Emergency services say it is currently 31% contained. It is also the biggest by far among scores of fires raging across the western United States. Experts say they are symptomatic of climate change. Meanwhile, Israeli firefighters are battling a massive wildfire west of Jerusalem that has burned 2,000 hectares of forest over the past 3 days. Authorities have been forced to evacuate about 2,000 residents of nearby towns and villages as a precaution. Qantas has said all of its employees must be vaccinated against COVID-19, making it the latest global airline to mandate jabs for staff. Frontline workers, including pilots, cabin crew and airport staff, must be fully vaccinated by mid-November. The company says its remaining employees have until the end of March next year to receive both doses. The Australian flag carrier is the country's biggest, most high-profile company to introduce a mandatory vaccination policy. And finally, one of Spain's greatest living artists has been drawing a daily crowd by painting in public in Madrid. It's not often you get to see a master at work, but Antonio Lopez has been setting up his easel and canvas every day on the famous Puerta del Sol square. The 85-year-old, who has long enjoyed a career in Spain and features in the permanent collections of museums around the world, is renowned for his lifelike depictions of everyday subjects, from city scenes to portraits. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Welcome to Sports News. Team Nigeria has made history at the ongoing World Athletics Under-20 Championships in Nairobi, Kenya, where the country's quartet of Nse Imelbong, Nnamani Johnson Okpeyemi Oke and Bamidele Ajayi clinched gold at the 4x400 meters relay today. This is the first time in 13 years Nigeria is winning a gold medal at the Under-20 Championship, and the athletics also put Nigeria in the history book as the first country ever to win the 4x400 meters mixed relay at the world stage. And that will be all in sports news.
Many thanks, Kayode. And the main news again. President Muhammadu Buhari today set the implementation of the Petroleum Industry Act in motion, issuing a 12-month target to the chosen 7-man steering committee to ensure transparency and drive investment in the oil and gas sector. That's the news at 10. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. On behalf of everyone here, it's good night and stay safe.